Hello and welcome to Sports Bars, your one-stop destination to all that is making news in the field of sports. In the next half an hour, we'll keep a track of all the sporting updates from across the country and the world. In the show today, we bring you, as always, all the action from the ongoing ICC T20 World Cup 2021, French Open Badminton, Transylvania Open Tennis, and a lot more. Stay tuned. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Let's get started with the headlines. In the two Super 12 fixtures of the ICC T20 World Cup slated today, England to take on Bangladesh in the first match, while Namibia to face Scotland in the second match. In ICC T20 World Cup action yesterday, Pakistan clears its way to reach the quarter-finals with a second consecutive win, defeating New Zealand by 5 wickets. South Africa register an 8-wicket win against two-time world champions West Indies. In EFL Cup football, Chelsea and Arsenal seal quarter-final berths. Chelsea beat Southampton 4-3 in a penalty shootout in the last 16. While Arsenal beat Leeds United 2-0 in the pre-quarter-finals. And in badminton, Sameer Verma advances to the second round of the men's singles of the French Open in Paris. So let's get started with all the ICC T20 World Cup action. In today's Super 12 fixture, England is up against Bangladesh. Bangladesh has won the toss and chose to bat first. When reports last came in, Bangladesh were 20 for the loss of 2 wickets. In the next Super 12 match today, Scotland will take on Namibia in the 21st match of the 2021 edition of the T20 World Cup. The Scotland side will enter this match low on confidence after the thrashing they received from the Afghanistan side in their Super 12 match on Monday. Afghanistan emerging the winners in that match on Monday. So South Africa cruised to an 8-wicket victory against West Indies to register their first win in the 2021 T20 World Cup. After restricting the Windies to 143 for the loss of 8 wickets, the Proteas chased down the target with 10 balls remaining. Aiden Markram remained unbeaten on 51, with Rassie Wender Dussen making an important contribution with an unbeaten 43. Reza Hendricks, who replaced Quinton de Kock in the lineup, scored a brisk 39. Earlier, Evan Lewis was the only positive as the West Indies batting lineup failed to step up for a second successive game. Wicketkeeper Quinton de Kock made himself match against West Indies after refusing to take the knee. Cricket South Africa issued a directive before the match that all players should make the gesture. In another match, Pakistan beat New Zealand by 5 wickets. The partnership between Shoaib Malik and Asif Ali guided Pakistan to their second men's T20 World Cup victory in just 3 days now. Chasing 135, Shoaib and Asif shared 48 to seal success with 8 balls left. New Zealand, playing their first game in Group 2, were restricted to 134 for 8, with Haris Rauf taking 4 wickets for 22 runs. Shifting gears in sports buzz now, let's talk about badminton. Sameer Verma advanced to the second round of men's singles of the French Open in Paris on Tuesday. Sameer Verma beat South Korea's Lee Dong-kyun 21-14, 21-12 in the opening round. Sameer Verma will next face Indonesia's Sheshar Hiren Rustavito. Next, let's talk about tennis. US Open champion and teen sensation Emma Raducanu had to work hard for her first win on the WTA Tour after her fairy tale New York triumph, as she recovered from a set down to beat world number 124 Polona Hercog 4-6, 7-5, 6-1 in the Transylvania Open in Romania. Raducanu announced herself on the grandest stage when she claimed the Flushing Meadows title as a qualifier last month, but the 18-year-old Briton lost to Alexandra Sasnovich of Belarus in straight sets at the Indian Wells. Still without a coach after parting ways with former Davis Cup player Andrew Richardson and having skipped the Kremlin Cup in Moscow, world number 23 Raducanu had sought to temper the expectations but showed her class in a difficult match. She surrendered the opening set tamely after being 4-1 up before showing glimpses of the fighting character that marked her maiden major success to draw level at 1 set apiece. With the momentum going her way, Raducanu raised her level by a notch and roared to 5-0 in the deciding set. Raducanu won 77% of her first serve points to close out the victory in Cluj-Napoca. Raducanu will next face on home favourite Anna Bogdan tomorrow. On to some football action now. Chelsea and Arsenal progressed to the quarterfinals of the EFL Cup. Talking about Chelsea first, well, the Blues beat Premier League rival Southampton on penalties after a 1-1 draw. Reece James scored the decisive spot kick for the league leaders after Theo Walcott and Will Smallbone failed to hit the target with their efforts for the Saints. Chelsea have enjoyed a fine start to the campaign both at home and in Europe, as they sit at the top of the Premier League table and have won 2 of their 3 games so far in the Champions League. Next, let's talk about the other Arsenal versus Leeds United match of the EFL Cup. Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta said that Eddie Nketiah has a future at the club after he scored to help the Gunners see off Leeds United and reach the Carabao Cup quarter-finals. Substitute Callum Chambers' header crept over the line seconds after he came off the bench before former Leeds loanee Nketiah pounced to wrap up the tie. The forward cleverly flicked the ball over a stranded Elan Meslier and just did enough to nudge it over the line before the visiting keeper could recover. Leeds had looked the more threatening side until the first goal in an open and entertaining game against a much-changed Arsenal side at the Emirates Stadium. Still with football, updates on Italian Serie. Former Arsenal and Chelsea striker Oliver Giroud scored the only goal as AC Milan beat Torino to take Milan to the top of the Serie A. Giroud, 35, scored from close range at the back post after good work from Raid Krunic after 14 minutes. The France World Cup winner, who joined Milan after his Chelsea contract expired at the end of last season, has scored 4 times in 6 league games. Milan are now 3 points ahead of Napoli, who play Bologna at home on Thursday. German champions Bayern Munich has said that it supports the vaccination of its players to protect them against COVID-19, but it is not mandatory. The club said this amid a furore caused by player Joshua Kimmich's announcement that he was not vaccinated for COVID-19. The German international football player had said on Saturday that he was not vaccinated because of concerns he had over long-term effects of the vaccine. He had further said that he might get vaccinated in the future. Now, his comments triggered a storm of criticism across Germany, with many arguing that football players needed to be more responsible as they are followed the world over as role models.
Und das ist nach wie vor schon eine große Stärke, dass sie sowohl aus der tiefen Ordnung in viele Kontersituationen kommen können, was sie gut machen, aber immer aus sehr hohen Positionen gut pressen mit viel Personal. Wir haben einfach über den ganzen Platz eine ordentliche Physis, nicht nur was die Geschwindigkeit angeht, auch einfach eine reine Körperlichkeit und natürlich auch einen guten Plan, wieder Pressemomente auch vom Gegner zu überspielen. Und von dem her ist es dann in der Verbindung mit dem emotionalen Stadion auswärts sicherlich keine ganz leichte Aufgabe, respektive die schwerste aus Gladbachs Sicht und aus unserer Sicht auch.
FIFA President Gianni Infantino called on more countries to help with evacuations and to open their doors to relocate refugees from Afghanistan in a video released by the soccer governing body. Infantino made the call while visiting with more than 150 refugees FIFA helped evacuate, along with Qatar, who are currently being housed at a compound in Doha that will be used when the Gulf state hosts the 2022 World Cup.
People have contributed to that. Qatar in particular, they have to be thanked. Now these girls with their families are here in a safe environment, in a compound which has been built for the World Cup next year. And again, it took us and the Qataris like 1 second to say, okay, of course, this is at disposal of them and their families. And now they have to go on. They have to go on. We have to find for them new countries, new places where they can stay. The first one who jumped in was Prime Minister Edi Rama from Albania. I want to thank him as well. He said, and I met him a couple of weeks ago in New York, and he said immediately, our country is open. We went through, he said, a lot of difficulties as well. So we understand what these people are going through. Our country is open. So thanks to Edi Rama, thanks to Albania. But we need more countries. We need more governments. We need more football family members to help us, not just to talk about solidarity, to talk about helping, but to do it in real action. We are doing it. We'll continue to knock on all the doors around the world, and we hope that some will listen and hear this plea, this call for help, and will open the doors to these girls who have an amazing life, who have amazing stories to tell.
So the call for solidarity for Afghani people and their countrymen continues. Earlier, FIFA said that they had worked with the Qatari government to evacuate more than 150 soccer players and their families from Afghanistan, along with others, with links to the Afghanistan National Basketball Federation in 2 evacuation efforts. FIFA had also helped cycling body UCI in the evacuation of 165 refugees via Albania. There have been numerous evacuations since the Taliban seized control of Afghanistan's capital Kabul on August 15th and announced a new government last month after US-led foreign forces withdrew and the Western-backed government collapsed there. Moving on in sports buzz now, for Neymar, the overarching goal is to lift the Champions League trophy alongside Lionel Messi, but this time as teammates at Paris Saint-Germain. Neymar and Messi won the Champions League together at Barcelona in 2015. The Brazilian then left the club for PSG in the summer of 2017, and after a 21-year career at Barcelona, Messi followed suit, joining the Paris club on a 2-year contract in August. With a stacked side that also includes forward Kylian Mbappe and defender Sergio Ramos, PSG has since become one of the most talked about clubs in Europe, and Neymar says that has put a target on their backs. Adelaide United midfielder Josh Cavallo became the first active A-League player to come out as gay, saying he was done with the feeling of being ashamed about his sexuality and the exhaustion of trying to live a double life. The 21-year-old said on a video posted on Adelaide's social media, and I quote him, "I'm a footballer and I am gay. All I want to do is play football and be treated equally," unquote. Few elite male soccer players have come out as gay during their careers. Andy Brennan became the first former A-League player to come out in 2019 when the ex-Newcastle Jet was still playing in a lower tier. Australia's Professional Players Union said it was a wonderful moment for him, the sport and the LGBT international community. Melbourne man Cavallo said that his Adelaide teammates and coaches had been like a family to him, but he grew weary of having to swerve normal locker room talk about players' love lives. Cavallo said Thomas Beattie, a former youth player for English club Hull City who came out in 2020, had been a role model in helping him on his journey and hoped their example might help change things for other young gay men in sports. Tough personal calls there to announce it to the world. Now, shifting gears again in sports buzz, now with just 100 days until the start of the Winter Olympics, Beijing is promising a simple and safe 2022 Games. Although preparations are anything but simple, as China readies to host thousands of athletes and personnel as it battles COVID-19 flare-ups there. The Games will run from February 4th to 20th next year, with all participants subject to daily COVID-19 tests and no international spectators present. Athletes and other games-related personnel will be enveloped in a closed loop, including the 3 clusters of venues. The countdown to the Games comes as China, with some of the world's most stringent COVID-19 controls, continues to struggle to manage small Delta variant outbreaks there. For instance, the Beijing and Wuhan marathons were recently postponed, with curbs on travel into the capital announced due to dozens of daily new cases being reported there. Such restrictions have contributed to a lack of anticipatory buzz that marked the Beijing 2008 Summer Olympics, an extravaganza that was widely seen as China's global coming out party then. Meanwhile, Team Canada officially unveiled their Beijing 2022 Olympic uniforms with 100 days to go until the Winter Games begin. The centerpiece of the uniform is a convertible parka with multiple options for length. The sleeves can zip off to make it a vest. There is also a removable bottom section that can be turned into a travel pillow or scarf. Handy straps on the inside of the jacket allow it to be worn like a backpack also. Lululemon chief product designer Sancho describes the philosophy behind the look as the science of feel and describe the sentiments behind the design. The 2022 Winter Olympics begin on February 4th with the closing ceremony scheduled on February 20th. The 2022 Winter Paralympics start from March 4th and run up to March the 13th. And next in Sports Buzz, it's time for a short break, but all the sporting action continues on the other side. Stay with us.
Indian swimmer Sri Hari Nataraja bettered his own mark on the opening day of 74th Senior National Aquatic Championships. Nataraja improved his own record of 55.63 seconds in the 100-meter backstroke by clocking 55.10 seconds. Nataraja's personal best in the event is 53.77 seconds, which he clocked in Italy earlier this year to directly qualify for the Tokyo Olympics. In another brilliant swim, Delhi's Kushagra Rawat came up with a sensational effort in the 400-meter freestyle for men as he eclipsed Sajan Prakash's record of 3 minutes 54.93 seconds set in 2018 in Trivandrum. Rawat clocked 3 minutes 53.68 seconds to create a new national record. He was more than 3 body lengths ahead of second place finisher Anish Gowda of Karnataka, who timed 3 minutes 59.63 seconds. The seasoned Shiva Thapa entered the second round of the AIBA World Boxing Championships after dominating victories in the opening bouts. 5-time Asian medalist Thapa, competing in his 3rd World Championship, produced a fine tactical performance to prevail 5-0 against Kenya's Victor Nyadra. Tournament debutant Deepak Bohria advanced to the pre-quarters of AIBA World Boxing Championship after dominating victories in the opening bouts. Bohria has a tough one at hand on November 1 as he will be up against Kazakhstan's Sakin Bibosinov, an Olympic and World Championships bronze medalist. A pair of Nike shoes worn by basketball legend Michael Jordan in his rookie season with the Chicago Bulls fetched a record $1.472 billion at an auction in Las Vegas on Sunday. The pair of shoes were the earliest known shoes worn by Jordan as a professional. They were worn in his previous 5th NBA game on November 1, 1984, a 129-113 loss to the Denver Nuggets. The previous record for sporting sneakers set last year were also for Jordan shoes and stood at $6,15,000. Sports Desk, DD India.
So that was our segment Sports Wrap. Now let's talk about Basque sports. Well, it's a unique term and it's used in French. These are competitions rooted in the traditional lifestyles of the Basque people. In Europe, this sport is concentrated in Spain and France, especially in the Basque country. So women lifted up heavy stones to their shoulders and swung axes during the Women's Championship of Herri Kirolak or Basque sports, as the new generation aims to change attitudes in the traditionally male-dominated sport. The town square in Mungia in northern Spain was packed with spectators to cheer on the female competitors, who are still a relatively unusual sight in the events. Basque sports, Herri Kirolak in the Basque language, showcase displays of strength and stamina associated with heavy manual labor, traditionally associated with rural life in the Basque country, a region of northern Spain that borders France. The 18 categories of traditional Basque sports take inspiration from the region's rocky terrain and farming traditions. They include stone lifting and dragging, wood chopping and sawing, scathing and running with milk pails. Competitors said they had been encouraged by people's response to the growing presence of women in the sport. Former US women's national team coach Jill Ellis is now leading a group that is exploring a biennial Women's World Cup as a way to grow the game, but insists that the controversial plan isn't a foregone conclusion. Jill Ellis said that not enough teams play at the Olympics for it to properly showcase the women's side of the sport. FIFA revealed aspirations to redraft the calendar of international soccer competitions to accommodate holding the men's and women's tournaments every 2 years. The idea has come under scrutiny. Ellis leads the technical advisory group. FIFA announced that it is discussing the plan. It includes current and former players, coaches, referees, executives, administrators from across the globe. More in this report.
Former World Cup winning coach Jill Ellis, who is now working in an advisory role for FIFA and revamping the global soccer calendar, says not enough teams play at the Olympics for it to properly showcase the women's side of the sport. On Saturday, the International Olympic Committee said it wants to have more discussions over controversial plans by the World Soccer's governing body to hold the World Cup every 2 years instead of every 4.
I look at that and say, I think I've already spoken to the fact that, we've had our World Cup final went head to head with 2 other Confederation finals on the men's side and came out ahead in the rankings. If it's not in the same calendar period, like June, July, I think we have enough, and we have to believe and trust that we have enough in our sport that we can have a big piece of the pie, that we don't have to sit in the corner. It's really about the lens you look through.
It added that the concerns related to the impact a World Cup every 2 years could have on other sports, players' welfare, and an increase of men's events impacting gender equality. Although the IOC's statement did not reference the potential impact on its own football competition, Ellis said more global exposure was needed for female footballers, and a 12-team Olympic tournament did not do that.
I look through the position of being a player and a coach that wants to see this go bigger. So I would say having more is sometimes you say more is less, but I actually think on this occasion, more access to every little girl to play this game, more visibility for our players to have a voice and get what they deserve. I don't see that as a negative. And as it relates to the Olympics, again, I've sort of said, when you don't have some of the best teams in the world there, I think that's not showcasing our sport to the level I think it could. And again, I'm not a political animal. I love the Olympics. It's I just think it's very, very limited in how many teams can access that tournament in terms of getting into it.
An IOC statement said that FIFA's proposals are set to be voted on in December by the 211 member associations of global soccer's governing body. But the plan has met with fierce criticism from a number of continental and national federations, players groups, as well as fans. Sports Desk, DD India.
So what impact could it have holding a football World Cup every 2 years for both men and women? That's the food for thought we are leaving you with. But before we wrap up this edition of Sports Buzz, let's take a quick look at the sports headlines we are tracking at this hour. In the two Super 12 fixtures of the ICC T20 World Cup slated today, England takes on Bangladesh in the first match, while Namibia to face Scotland in the second match. In ICC T20 World Cup action yesterday, Pakistan clears its way to reach the quarterfinals with a second consecutive win, defeating New Zealand by 5 wickets. South Africa register an 8-wicket win against two-time world champions West Indies. In EFL Cup, Chelsea and Arsenal seal quarter-final berths. Chelsea beat Southampton 4-3 in a penalty shootout in the last 16. While Arsenal beat Leeds United 2-0 in the pre-quarters. And in badminton, Sameer Verma advances to the second round of the men's singles of the French Open in Paris. So that is it in this edition of Sports Buzz. We'll be back tomorrow same time with all the latest sporting action and of course the latest sports buzz. So until we meet again, you take very good care of yourself, observe all the upcoming festivities with caution, exercise, stay fit, stay safe and most important, stay masked whenever you step out. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.